Welcome to Branding the Beltway. I'm Stacey Piper, a 25-year government marketing expert and the host of the podcast that helps you level up your B2G marketing game with actionable insider tips and real-world case studies. If you're in the business of doing business with the government, you're in the right place. Each episode delivers straight-to-the-point strategies from senior marketing leaders familiar with navigating the unique world of GovCon. In each episode, we'll first explore that month's topic on a macro level, talking strategy with CXOs. Then we'll deep dive into the same topic on a micro level, examining the practical approach of development and implementation. We're talking brand awareness, content strategy, and the campaign tactics that actually move the needle. Whether you're a CXO, a growth strategist, or a marketing practitioner looking to strengthen your federal position, Branding the Beltway is your essential resource for driving results and winning more contracts. Let's connect strategy to execution and position your brand to win. Welcome to episode 1 of Branding the Beltway. I'm Stacey Piper, your host. Today's topic is how sales and marketing should be in lockstep for a go-to-market strategy. Our special guest today is Hunter Gros. He's the Director of Marketing and Client Services for vTech Solutions, a nearly 20-year-old IT services firm serving mostly federal civilian agencies. Hunter, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Stacey, thanks so much for having me on. High-level overview, a little bit about myself. I started my career in technology on the sales and account management side, so had a pretty robust background of how to find net new clients and also keep them happy. And from there, I transitioned over onto the marketing side. I thought that was a very beneficial background because when I do my marketing practices, I'm always thinking about the end result, which is hopefully helping a company gain new clients as well as keep them happy and keep them growing. So my approach is very much a kind of linear, how do we all play together and stay in the same ecosystem.
I love that that's your background because it definitely gives you a unique perspective that a lot of marketers don't have. I was hoping to dive in with our CXO level discussion, which is really you advising C-suite leaders on what they should be thinking about with regard to sales and marketing alignment and their go-to-market strategy. So let's start by finding out what you think they should know about what that best-in-class marketing integration with capture, what does that look like in a high-performing GovCon organization?
Yeah, great question. So in my opinion, in a high-performing GovCon organization, sales and marketing are truly working together in lockstep, and the behind the scenes, not flashy pieces and work that really need to come together is truly understanding your product. I'll call this all research, really understanding your product, really understanding your competitors, really understanding what the customers and consumers want, and then thinking about how you equip the sales individuals to be successful in addressing those topics. So on a high level with the go-to-market strategy, the research portion, in my opinion, is the most important. Second, once you have that research and understand it as much as possible, while the sales team is out there networking and making connections, the marketing team should really be there to help support the sales, both on collateral and content the sales team gives to prospective and new clients, as well as any brand awareness and messaging that the marketing team that can make for organizations or new faces to make your company discoverable, as well as really make your brand resonate. So for me, that's really the step one, is the marketing is helping with brand recognition and resonation, as well as empowering the sales team so that when they meet individuals, it's memorable for the people that they meet.
That's excellent. So let's just explore this topic a little bit more. And when you talk about research, like who's doing the research in the organization, or how's that research getting done?
Yeah, great question. So it's different with organizations of all shapes and sizes, but there needs to be a couple individuals truly dedicated, in my opinion, to the research. So that's using everything, of course, from the internet, from current customers or clients, learning about the successes that you're having with them, not being afraid to go to conferences. I actually go to a pretty healthy amount of conferences, and I'm actually going to be out there in the market. I'm actually not always behind a booth pitching vTech. I'm going out there, attending panels, having discussions with peers and colleagues, and just continually being in the field. So that's kind of the field marketing, the field research, if you will. And then, of course, always being up to date, reading the most latest trends, the publications, the articles. You need to be pretty well read. In my opinion, an ideal team setting, you have more than one person doing this, hopefully two or even more, and then they come together and share what they're seeing in the field so you can continually refine and understand what you're all seeing so you're delivering the correct message.
That's awesome. And with sales informing marketing for those messages, for the collateral and sales enablement that you were talking about, have you found any secrets to success with kind of getting that frontline salesperson feedback loop where they have some kind of a venue or mechanism to give that feedback to marketing?
Yeah, I always am a big proponent of more human connections and more meetings. So, well, more meetings, but appropriate, not just meetings to have meetings. So I do connect with our chief strategy officer. I speak with him often. He oversees our entire sales department. And in those meetings, we are having discussions of what we're seeing in the field, what the team is reporting back. I also personally, because I'm with a smaller organization, but I would also recommend larger organizations do this too. I always put time on my calendar to connect with our most junior level salespeople and just talk to them and hear what's going on. So I'm very big into breaking down the silos and having real conversations. And that way you can really understand what people are hearing and seeing on the field.
That's great. So not just messaging alignment, but actual like people alignment.
Yes.
Good to remember. I'm curious what role you think marketing should have during the capture process or before proposals are even written.
Yeah, great question. In my opinion, the role of marketing before the proposals are even written, the marketing can help be a voice on the topics and the areas that are being seen. So, for example, everyone knows cybersecurity is a hot topic and will be quite for some time, as well as AI. If marketing can be the voice of a company on their takes, traditionally in a white paper, but now with multimedia can be in white papers and videos and formats, where they can start to display their company's opinion or point of view on that hot topic. I picked randomly cybersecurity and AI. It could be anything. And I think as you share that message with your network, you can really help participate and get the wheels turning and help influence individuals on how they view the topic instead of them waiting for a top down on what they think they need to be looking for. So I view that portion of content marketing as really an educational tool. While marketing is responsible for, in my opinion, delivering that message, making it stick out, making it educational and also entertaining at the same time, that is 100% in collaboration with subject matter experts. I bring that point home to my team all the time with our research and all the extra work we do. If there's someone who knows more than us, let's bring them on. Let's have a podcast discussion like this. Let's invite them to the office, ask them questions. I'm a big believer of just always going to the source of truth in order to help shape that message instead of just winging it and hoping for the best.
Absolutely. I like that. So you're saying marketing's role is really like a level of like aerial coverage support with some brand promotions, et cetera, as well as like thought leadership marketing related to the specific topics of each opportunity and bid pursuit.
Yeah, 100%. And the branding part, I believe, is absolutely critical. But I would actually elevate the other points you just mentioned a little bit higher than, oh, we just need to be this branding machine. I believe in having a strong brand. I have a blast making strong brands. It's one of my favorite things. But the more that your brand can be the megaphone or the microphone for experts, I actually think your credibility will naturally increase because people will realize you're not just making stuff up or using, ChatGPT deep search and then copy pasting, copy pasting that. You'll really be associated with being a serious player in the area, and that then will increase your brand.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, once the capture team is really off and running and they're well formed, do you or someone else from your team in marketing have a seat at the table with the capture team, or are those connections usually more kind of offline from the way the capture teams normally work?
Yep. Once the relationship is up and running, that's a lot more in the BD space. Again, my door is always open. And I'm not just saying that as cliche. Like if a BD person says we really need something that, fills this need and communicates how we can help this partner or potential customer, we're there to help in that process. And we're constantly building marketing collateral for each touch point down the buyer journey. But once there's a pretty strong handoff and it seems like the relationship is self-sustainable, marketing's not coming in every time.
Absolutely. Good. And I'm curious from your vantage point, what KPIs or success indicators do you suggest that CXOs could track in order to see if marketing is truly contributing to growth in the federal space?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. The elusive KPI. So I at least the ones everyone should consider because this is optimal control. I believe in being able to measure what an individual can control. On the marketing side, a LinkedIn presence. Those are easy wins, but real wins. You can show follower growth. How many followers existed on your client base before you joined, and did that increase? On emails, you can, of course, do open rates and click rates if it's targeted correctly. But I encourage people to be bold and try new things. For example, we just started a newsletter. We started it in October, and I said if we didn't show growth after 6 months, we were just going to cut it off. And we're around 1,500 subscribers to our newsletter. That's helping our brand awareness. Within that newsletter is the content I discussed about, which is coming from subject matter experts. So that's a growth and that's a win. If you go to conferences, there needs to be a whole conference strategy there. But if you can pinpoint how many net new individuals you met, that helps. A hard one with conference with brand awareness, but I still believe in this, is if you have the budget for one big spend a year or one big spend or two big spends, one per each section of the year. We did a pretty big branding initiative. We had shirts made. We're a big sponsor for the brand. Yes, you can't really quantify that except for when you start meeting people, they'll say, hey, I think I remember seeing your logo or you all at XYZ event. That's a little bit harder to track, but I think that's a serious KPI to think about is, are people now starting to see you or search for you instead of just the outreach? So that's where my mind is. Are those
Yeah,
three: email growth, LinkedIn growth, as well as branding awareness is a great place to start.
that's great. I love the name recognition above and beyond like brand awareness or understanding. Um, I'm curious how you're delivering your newsletter. Are you doing a LinkedIn newsletter or email?
Yeah, the answer is both.
Oh, good.
Our newsletter, we then repackage it on LinkedIn articles. So we have the
Okay,
exact same, yeah, both.
perfect. Good to know. Do you notice any difference in how they perform, or is it just two different channels to get the information out?
Yeah, just two different channels to get the information out on the newsletter growth via email is what we're pretty bullish on. Just to be direct, of course, the more that grows, the more email addresses you get, the more contact information, the more you can grow trust. That's how marketing is. So There's nothing dirty secret about that. That's the name
Absolutely.
of the game. And then LinkedIn is just to continue with that brand awareness. We do dig into the data, especially when there's very successful ones, but that's just to help us be top of mind to our followers.
I love that. And are there any website metrics that you're tracking as part of the KPIs?
Yeah, great question. So we do also track our website visits. I don't know if it's like a shameless plug. Our CRM is HubSpot. If there is a contact in your HubSpot, HubSpot will actually tell you if those contacts are coming to your website. They'll also tell you organic and direct visits, so how people found your organization. So we are tracking our website metric as well. It's a little bit more nebulous, Wild West. Well, not Wild West. It's just a little bit more nebulous because now there's so many ways that people can come to your website. But we do track that.
Our final question for CXO audience is, how do you evaluate the ROI for marketing when federal sales cycles can stretch from 12, 18, 24 months or longer?
Yeah, great question. And I'm sure any marketer out there in the GovCon space wrestles with this a little bit in their team. My point of view is the sales cycle should match the length of marketing. So I think a year, honestly, is a good metric. And the fair metric, in my opinion, is true network growth. That's where the ROI is. It's a competitive space. There's large organizations, there's small organizations. And at the end of the day, the largest ROI for marketing is how much more did you help to grow the network. That also is why I believe it needs to be lockstep with sales, right? Marketing can grow the follower base on LinkedIn. You can grow newsletters. Those are two wins we are currently experiencing, so I can tout those. But also, if the word of mouth and the actions you are taking at conferences, the way you're supporting actual BDs, if BD's networks are individually growing, the BD is still a face on the ground associated with the company. And that's just kind of the overall win, in my opinion, is not just the digital number, but how many actual people are in the pipeline now. Not deals and opportunities, but humans are now in the pipeline, connections that BDs can pick up the phone with. And if you're able to track that, and you should, because I think at the start of each year, you should start at 0 or whatever the previous number was from the previous year and measure that growth. You're growing your overall network, which is your real buying power in the GovCon industry. So I think that is the most fair ROI, and that should be a year out.
Perfect. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about that. This episode of Branding the Beltway is brought to you by Piper Strategies and Orange Slices. Piper Strategies, marketing that moves the needle. Piper Strategies is a full-service creative agency for leaders serious about growth. We decode the complex, translating mission-driven work into clear, compelling narratives. Our clients expand their reach, communicate with impact, and earn trust in competitive markets so they can win more work. We don't just deliver results, we build your internal marketing muscle. With Piper Strategies, clients grow with us until they outgrow us. It's a partnership-first, unagency approach that not only gets you noticed and builds credibility, but also scales your brand and your team. Learn more at piperstrategies.com. Orange Slices, fresh intelligence for B2G success. Cut through the noise with Orange Slices, a trusted source for public sector insights, teaming opportunities, and procurement intel. With a playful name and a powerful platform, they're serious about making data accessible and usable so the entire GovCon community can thrive. For resources, visit orangeslices.ai. We're here with Hunter Gros from vTech Solutions, talking about how marketing can better align with sales for a strong go-to-market strategy. Now we're talking to marketing leaders and implementers within the organization on a more tactical level. So Hunter, when you think about a tactical level, how can marketers actually align human, like you were saying before, or through systems to better align with BD and capture?
Yeah. So on the actual tactical level, I would have the most senior person in marketing, the one that helps to make the decisions, steer that portion of the company ship, in the meetings that are connected to sales, so acquiring net new customers, as well as current customers, so account management or account growth. The reason why I think they should be in those bookends are on the sales side. They're able to hear from the field what support people need, what messaging, what collateral, actual blind spots. Maybe salespeople are saying, I am losing in these type of conversations, XYZ, because we just aren't able to communicate how we solve X problem. Marketing can then, they're aware of the problem the team's having and start to craft that message and collateral so the sales team can be more successful. On the other side, if they're part of the customer account management, client retention meetings, they are able to hear what's going well. These are things you can bang the drum. Everyone wants to be humble, but celebrate those successes, make your network aware of your successes. And then also on the reverse, if a current customer or client only starts to associate your company with doing one little thing, but your company actually can do so much more, that's where marketing can also help with the upsell and make the content and collateral and messaging to hopefully grow within that company. So I view that really, it's supposed to be there on both sides because it helps all the teams win, which naturally is connected to company growth. Only other thing I'll share, and this is up for companies to really decide, is how high up in the hierarchy you want marketing on a seat. Like if your company has a private meeting that's just the CEO, CSO, the CFO, and it's just C-suite, that's really up for leadership to decide if you think marketing needs to have a seat at that table. Of course, as a marketer and a person who loves company growth, I think they should, because they'll hear everything and maybe figure out how else they can help the company better market itself. But if not, and you keep them a little bit lower, definitely make sure they're helping all the other avenues of the company and not just saying, marketers make up generic pamphlet and that's it.
Yeah, no, you're speaking to my heart here, because when the options, when I had a seat at the table at our, monthly pipeline hygiene meetings with the full sales team, or even sitting in specific capture meetings, hearing what the win themes would be or what the influence map looks like, etc., was when I could have the biggest impact when I was an in-house marketer. So I agree wholeheartedly. In a landscape where everyone does IT, right, and cybersecurity, and it's just so competitive, how can you stand out? How can marketers build positioning and messaging that genuinely breaks through the noise?
First, it's being crystal clear on what product, service, or solution you offer. Prior to this role, I was with an education technology company that went all the way, the whole distance. They got purchased. That was really exciting to be a part of a startup while they did that. And that biggest learning for me was they really doubled in on they really doubled down on one product first, and they kind of went all in. And as that momentum grew, then they started playing and expanding their product base and their product offering. So that's really like step one. The way your BDs talk about your company, the way you're talked about online, the way your customers talk about you, they need to, without flinching, say like, oh yes, XYZ organization is just absolute killers at, XYZ solution or problem. So that's kind of the trust that is built within your network. You need to be able to do that. In regards to the standing out, this is where it gets fun. I believe in the brand awareness is just testing and iterating messages. Give them enough time to stick. Do a true brand deep dive. This is something I did with vTech when I joined a little bit over almost 2 years now. I was looking at, how were we talking about ourselves? How are we pitching ourselves? And trying to build a unique brand. I do understand in the GovCon space, it is a pretty fine line. It's a pretty traditional industry. You want people to take you seriously, especially if, it's taxpayer dollars. So you can't go like, full circus and be a clown and juggle and things like that, and maybe do some of the viral things that you're seeing private organizations do. But I still encourage companies to be bold and be slightly different. Come up with a silly mascot, right? I don't know, something that actually makes you memorable, and you have to take that chance and just kind of test it out as you go. So those are my top two of mine thoughts when I hear that question.
I hear that. So you're even saying that like voice and tone and culture will come into play with how your messaging can stand out.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you rephrased it that way. Tone, voice, and culture, those three things. You want the company's emotion to be associated, or you want the emotion people feel when they think of you to be associated with your company. And on a branding side, I think that's everything in the GovCon space. You can go on LinkedIn. I encourage anyone to do it. Follow both big and small organizations, and you can tell what their culture is all about. And chances are that's what they're being associated with the contractors as well.
Exactly. Well, and even along parallel with go-to-market strategy, that's going to be how you attract and retain staff, right? So
Yep.
all of that will come through, and you'll get the right or the wrong people,
100%.
applying for jobs.
Yep.
Excellent. I'm curious how you balance brand building versus lead generation or other kinds of growth marketing in a long cycle environment.
Yeah. It really depends on where you're coming in with an organization. In my opinion, if the brand is wobbly, and I understand that a lot of C-suite would say that's a nice to have, I think the branding and the messaging needs to be ironed out pretty clear before you try to tackle the lead generation and the lead growth. The reason being is if that is not clear, you can apply a lot of the great marketing strategies. You will see growth. I actually guarantee it. If you have a good marketer, you will see growth on LinkedIn. You will see some on email. You will see some on presence when you start spending money and going to booths. But at the end of the year, no one is going to be able to answer that key questions of what do you provide and what is the company like and who are they dealing with. In my opinion, that's maybe one of the worst things that can happen, right? You have 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, 14% of them are in your target industry, and for some reason 80% of them just liked your posts. Like now you're in, or sorry, 80% are in like a non-matching industry, and the last 5 are like who knows what. That's, in my opinion, a loss. You've now built a client base or a follower base who are not who you're trying to sell to. So the branding and your value add should really be defined crystal clear before you go all in on marketing. And off of that, I'll also offer, and not to make anyone get a harder time getting a job, but it's just the reality is, if companies don't have that defined, I think that's a sign you're actually not ready to market or go to market, because it's going to be harder for the sales team. It's going to be harder for the account management team. If you haven't defined those characteristics, marketing is not going to save you. You got to figure that out as a company. You being leadership.
Yeah. Like why would a prospect stop by your exhibit booth if they didn't recognize your brand name or understand what your brand promise means to them?
100%. If not, maybe you have a really cool tchotchke you're giving out at the booth, and then it's gone.
Then you're wasting your salespeople's time and all of that.
Exactly. Yep.
I agree. It's marketing's job to make it easier for sales to sell. And 100%. If you locked up that brand stuff, like no one's going to open their emails or return their phone calls or take their meetings. And so then it makes it harder for them to do their jobs.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I wanted to shift here and just find out if you have specific approaches that have worked that our marketers can use to transform highly technical, complex, compliance-driven capabilities into more like, so what statements, buyer-centric, benefit-driven solutions.
Yeah. First, I would recommend everyone in the industry read David Ogilvy's book on advertising. I know we are not like advertising houses. Maybe you are, or maybe you outsource, but he does an absolutely wonderful job, even after all these years, pinpointing the importance of how you talk about your product or service, everything from headlines to body copy to art. I think a lot of that still rings true. So for kind of the first step I would recommend is thinking about how you're positioning it. There is an art to it when you mention certain aspects, certain services, certain solutions. And I would spend a lot of time really nailing down that and getting the facts. And then this is where it becomes fun, is once you feel really solid about the facts and you feel very solid about the information you're conveying, then you get to spend kind of that last, let's say everything I just said takes 80%. Then you spend the last 20% repackaging it in a story. That's really my approach is you can either say IT services and GovCon is boring, or you could say, let's find the statistics, the facts, the value adds. Let's just get them out in the open and say, we cannot break from these in our story. Now it's our turn to work with skilled graphic designers, video people, social media, TikTok, you name it. And how do we take these facts and package it in a way that makes someone want to read the rest of the content? And that's where it goes from kind of hard science to arts and creativity. And that will definitely bring attraction. The danger of the reverse is if you start with the creativity first and you don't have the facts, is someone's going to watch your content and read it and then completely forget about it, or even worse, not even share it, because they're going to say, all right, that was fun, but it doesn't solve the problem I'm looking for. So it should be very easy for them to see that you can solve their problem. And then the art is, how do you make it stick out, and how do you get them to want to share it with others?
I'm totally geeking out right now because this is what I think is really fun too. And so hopefully all of our marketers are in it with us. I'm just curious, like when you think about the repackaging and what time you talk about what element of the narrative or the solution, etc., are you spending a lot of time at this stage of your company's growth mapping content to the journey, the buyer journey?
Yeah, really, really good question. I'm laughing because just yesterday I was talking about the buyer's journey. So content should, once you've done everything else we've talked about, branding, value proposition, what you're selling, target audience, when all of that is done, market research, you should map out content to where you want individuals to be in the buyer's journey. Very concrete example is by the end of this week, we will have our rebranded and re-updated intro level sales deck done. So this is a heavy focus on a presentation that would maximum take 20 minutes, maybe even less, 15 minutes. And after that, prospective clients will know exactly what we bring to the table. And that then tees up, the next conversation and the next step, which is where, we'll get technical. We'll bring in, subject matter experts will be on that portion of the call. So yes, you should, I know I used the decks because that's face-to-face presentations, but you should 100%, in my belief, have content mapped all the way through the buyer's journey. As I said, even through with your customers and clients, because nothing sells better than excited customers evangelizing for you, saying this is what you did well, and then you can bring that over to the sales team and start it all over again, the same process. So definitely need content for the customer journey.
That's fantastic to hear because, right, I feel like a lot of times marketers or CXOs even hear things like mapping content to the journey and they think, oh, that's only for big companies, right? That's only for the, hundreds of millions or billions of dollar companies that have time and money to invest in that. But it's good to hear that even, if you're smaller, you can still follow those best practices and get the value out of them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in some way, I view marketers as like the reporters of the company. They should be out there interviewing and talking to everybody, getting the story down, working with their in-house or freelance teams to repackage it. It's especially in this digital age, it's very easy to do. And then you can have the content needed for the entire buyer's journey.
Before we let you go, Hunter, I'm just curious if you've discovered any tools, systems, or processes that help keep marketing, sales, BD, capture operating in sync, especially across longer term pursuits.
Yeah, great question. So I am a big proponent and fan of the repurposing and really getting the most out of your content and messages. To be more specific, as we said earlier, nothing can replace subject matter experts. Nobody can replace their knowledge, their nuances. I've used ChatGPT, but I don't think it's there yet. It's honestly not. It has its benefits. And so the more times you can get subject matter experts and you work with them in collaboration, whether it's white papers, interviews, coming to events, talking on stages, you name it. If they are in partnership with your company, you should be repurposing that content as much as possible at the appropriate stages. So a 30-minute interview that's recorded on a stage, easily becomes a multi-series white paper, easily becomes a bunch of 30-second videos, things you can upload on Reels. You can connect it to, if you win deals with their expertise, that now becomes future case studies. You can implant their quotes in case studies. Hopefully the client that you won that deal with loves your services. You bring that back to the beginning with sales and you've now repackaged it. So once your machine is up and running, really utilize subject matter experts and make sure you're getting the most longevity out of their content. Very practical numbers. So now whoever listens to this isn't like scrambling, trying to get hundreds of subject matter experts. In the 2 years I've been here, we've done roughly 8, maybe 10. So that's 1 every 2 months. I think that's even a generous number. We are probably at 1 every 2 months. Maybe it's 1 every 3. That's how often we're actually finding a subject matter expert that's willing to partner with us, give us content that we need, share their thoughts, allow vTech to be the megaphone. And even now at almost 2 years, we're not scrambling. We're not like, oh no, we have to find someone. I mean, we're always on the lookout, but there's no pressure that we are feeling on. There needs to be more. It's really just making the most of what you have. And again, being within that network to build your own credibility.
Hunter, thanks for spending your lunch hour with us. I really appreciate your time and you sharing your expertise.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Stacey.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Branding the Beltway. If you're looking for an outsourced marketing partner or fractional marketing leadership who truly gets the GovCon sector, Piper Strategies is the team to know. We're not just here to deliver, we're here to empower. For resources or to inquire, visit piperstrategies.com.